Let's get sweaty.
Hey guys, welcome to a Shenmue Dojo Show bonus edition. This is the first of what's probably going to be a 2 or 3 part series looking at the now released Shenmue artworks which we acquired through the auction back in January. I know we've been hyping this for probably what seems like forever now, but it's taken a long time for us to get the documents scanned in, for this to be touched up by James and I, organise the webpage and just get everything ready for a proper decent release. But before we dive into all of that, I have James with me as normal, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, thanks, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm good. I've been keen to dive into this for quite some time. I think you're probably quite keen to dive in as well, although maybe keen to see the back end of some of this.
True. Like, everyone probably knows me from like Shenmue World, how much of a perfectionist I try and be. So I've been fiddling with this website that we're going to get into in a moment, where you're going to see all the artwork and it's all hopefully displayed in the best possible format and structure, whatever. So hopefully all of the hard work is going to pay off once we start getting into this. But you're right, Matt, it has kind of been a bit of a long-winded project, from something as simple as, you know, like an auction where we were able to actually acquire these artworks that we're going to get into. So like, these are, oh, look at that. We've pretty much gone on the exact same page, Matt.
Brilliant.
But obviously, you know, there's plenty of awesome artworks that are going to be made available for everyone to enjoy on these pages. But for now, we're going to start with the Shenmue 4 stuff, Matt.
We are. So what we've decided to do, we've broken everything up into sections, NPCs, you know, main characters and all the rest of it. But what is within this artwork, and it would be almost remiss of us not to do this, is there's bits and pieces pointing towards Shenmue 4. So we're talking location renders, we're talking potential characters that are going to appear in the future of the series, and also linking to the other artworks that we found with Mao and everything else through Hideki Kawabata, which were found through these auctions. So we're going to focus in on that, but before we go into the Shenmue 4 stuff, and we are really excited about the Shenmue 4 stuff, it is, so viewer discretion is advised here. There might be some spoilers kicking around. So just to put that out there for everybody right now, you might be spoiled on some things. We know stories have changed over years, but we just don't, at this point in time, we don't know whether this is going to be canon or not. So we're just advising caution as we go. But before we sort of go into that, let's have a very quick look at the main page itself and how it's broken down. We're not going to go into all the sections here. We'll do them in separate videos. But on the link provided in the description below and on social media, you'll be taken to a page for the original Shenmue development artwork documents. And we have put a very big note at the top here that says, please note the following content may contain spoilers for the future of the series. Viewer discretion is advised. And coming down, James has worked on all this himself. He's put all this together. He's got a little bit of a background on how this has all come together. So then moving down where the files came from, talking about the auction that we won these from originally. Again, some shots there. And also shout out to Chow, David DeVille, and Nathan, who helped us secure these documents as well. We formed a consortium to go ahead and do this. And Switch has obviously helped us with the purchasing and also the translations going forward. Then you've got a very awesome artwork there that's a promotional artwork that I don't believe was used in the promo for Shenmue 1. And then coming down, we've then got the section. So at the top, in big, Shenmue 4 spoilers, which is what we're going to be going to very shortly. Then you've got CG artwork, Shenhua 2D artwork, Shenhua 3D renders, Xiuying, Niao-san, Yuanda Triplets, which we are going to see today. Nozomi Harazaki with a really cool image there of the original design for Nozomi, which we will
Some
pick up
interesting stuff in there.
in another show, but some really good stuff in there. NPC artwork, renders and profiles. Cliff Temple, we're going to be talking about that today. A lot about that today. Design artwork, other 3D renders, and the front page of this is the Shenmue trading card game that was, I think, either binned off, cancelled, or disappeared. Uncategorized artwork with some brilliant watercolor stuff in there.
Lovely.
There is some Virtua Fighter 4 stuff which we've come across, which is quite cool as well. And there's a little bit of a bonus artwork section. And then what James has done at the bottom of this is taken the liberty of putting in the character renders from Hideki Kawabata, which we did a show on previously, as well as the earlier area renders, because it's all links together as one big piece.
Yeah.
And then what we've done is got a Google Drive link for everything to be downloaded from. So everybody will have access to these artworks in full top quality 600 DPI scans that have been touched up, put together by James and myself and on all of this website. But James, do you want to say a little bit before we dive into the Shenmue 4 stuff?
Yeah, so just a little bit on the Hideki Kawabata stuff. So that is literally I've just grabbed the galleries and put them in there, like Matt was saying. It just makes sense to put them within all of this artwork, because this seemingly just came out of nowhere, and one wouldn't exist without the other in a sense. So nice collection, essentially, of all of this artwork. I hope you really, really enjoy everything that we're going to be going through today and on the next shows, because there's a lot of stuff in here for Shenmue fans. Hopefully it gets you excited for the future of the series. Obviously the Shenmue 4 stuff we're going to be talking about today potentially might never happen in a Shenmue 4 or a 5 or a 6 or whatever. This is all stuff that was originally developed for Virtua Fighter RPG, so please go in with that mindset that some of the stuff might have been changed, like Matt said. So some of the stuff we're going to be talking about and what we anticipate will appear in a future series title Shenmue game, it might actually not. It's just, how things chop and change over the years. So just go in with that sort of mindset, and hopefully that you sort of enjoy the ride ahead, I guess, Matt.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Just to say, this was generated a long time ago. Some of this is nearly 30 years old. So as we say, plans, things change as we go through this. But it's still exciting to see potentially where the series could go, may go, or never go. We don't know. But what we really want is for this to get people excited about what could happen in a Shenmue game or Shenmue games going forward. So with that in mind, let's hit the Shenmue 4 spoilers section.
Get on with it! You can hear it, can't you?
Yeah, you can. So we're going to dive in. Shenmue 4 spoilers, ? And the section we've got here features all of the artwork we feel will give an insight into the future of the series, whether it would be through the character profiles, artwork, 3D renders of places we haven't been yet. And we hope you enjoy it. So what we have done to sort of kick things off is we've given a bit of context here. We've got the ending of Shenmue 3 there, because what the first images are below are the Cliff Temple. Now, we know the Dragon Mirror and the Phoenix Mirror once locked away in this Cliff Temple, that Landy is going there, and this cutscene's there for that context. But the first image we have below that video is an image of the Cliff Temple, the first hard image of the Cliff Temple outside of the Shenmue or Virtua Fighter RPG chapter cards. Suffice to say, when we saw this in the auction, our minds were absolutely blown away.
Gives you chills, doesn't it, really, to see a 3D render. So someone sat there and created this for the sole purpose that this is going to be a location that Ryo, Shenhua, whoever visits in the future of the series. The mirrors were once kept lock and key in this temple, apparently. What that means, we don't know. Is this where the treasure is, potentially?
Potentially.
Because the mirrors could be the key to the treasure, from what we learned about in Shenmue 2, from Yuanda Zoo, and then what we learned a little bit about from Shenhua's father, Misty 1, at the end of Shenmue 3, as you've seen in the cutscene if you watch that the mirrors were once held here, and Landy is likely to be heading this way. So, Ryo, in terms of the ending of Shenmue 3, appears to be travelling towards the Cliff Temple, and he appears to be travelling there with Shenhua and Ren. So, Matt, goosebumps aside, looking at this image now, well, looking at the next 3 images, because they're all of different angles of the Cliff Temple, this is potentially somewhere that is destined to be in a Shenmue 4, or maybe even a Shenmue 5, depending on which side of the fence you sit on that.
I mean, it's one of those, isn't it, that you look at. We know they're going there. It's 99.9%, isn't it? They are going to the Cliff Temple. I think what we don't know is how they're potentially getting there in a Shenmue 4 or 5. But this is nailed on. This, for me, is nailed on. Going to be in a future Shenmue game or games. So seeing these 3 images for the first time is just massively exciting. What's going to go down there? Is Rio going to face off Landy again there? What's Niao going to be doing in there? Are we going to see some of the Project Berkeley stuff from that video in this temple? Is that all going to go down here? That's what we questions we haven't got answers to. But the fact now is we have absolute visibility that this was rendered, it was planned, and is still there now. So this is it's spoiler territory in that we know it's happening and we can actually see it with our own 2 eyes. What may happen there, we don't know, but having this in our hands, and bearing in mind this was generated any time between 96 and 98, just shows how far back this thing goes. It's super exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, well, putting the date of these images aside, essentially we are looking at a Shenmue 4 screenshot in a sense.
Yes,
or a
we
Shenmue
are.
5 screenshot, aren't we? Because that was the original intention back in the day, for this to be one of the future tiles. I think it's chapter 7 actually on Yu Suzuki's
you're right,
post-mortem thing. It actually shows this structure in the background. So we, like Matt says, we kind of already knew of this place, so much so that obviously fans have researched, which going below the images of the Cliff Temple there rendered, we do have a real life shot of the Hanging Temple. So this is based on a real life location. So part of my interview with Yu Suzuki that I obviously did with Switch last year, we had a little bit of a chat about his China trip days, and one of the things he said was he was part of the mountain team. There was like these different teams that were going on these expeditions to China to research on different places. So this is somewhere that probably Yu Suzuki, with this being a sort of a mountainous structure, actually visited and saw with his own eyes, which is why it resonated with him, I would have thought, because looking at the structure, it's very interesting, it's very unique in the fact that it's held up by stilts on the side of a wall. It looks quite dangerous, really, that it could fall at any moment, but it's supported with these beams. But a very, very cool design, somewhere that you potentially put on your bucket list in the future, Matt.
Yeah, without a doubt, if you can get out there, do. And you go back up to the renders that are there, and it's 1-to-1 accurate, isn't it?
It is 1-to-1. It's insane, actually. Yeah, obviously it's not so much inspiration as it's like this is where we want our game to take place. This part of China. Obviously, it's called the Cliff Temple in the game, but its actual name is the Hanging Temple. And there's a Wikipedia link there on the word Hanging Temple if you are interested in learning a little bit more about the real life counterpart.
Brilliant. So there we go. And as we say, this is Shenmue 4 and 5 potentially material that we're seeing here. I can't stress that enough. This is absolute gold dust. Because obviously
certainly whets the appetite.
Yeah, exactly, for what's to come. Coming down, we've then got an image, James, Cliffside Fortress, which is almost sort of a follow-on to the Cliff Temple itself. And again, you've put some real-life images below this, sort of showing off a bit more of what is the Hanging Temple, but with the fortress alongside it. Do you want to talk us through that a bit?
This sort of blew my mind. So I've named it Cliffside Fortress. I don't know the exact name. It's not got any Japanese on this render for us to translate to know what it's called. I just took the liberty of calling it a fortress just because of the way it looks. But if you look at the real life counterpart photographs below, so obviously the more zoomed out of the Hanging Temple, so it's all one place called the Hanging Temple, and on the right hand side you've got the Hanging Temple type structure, and then interestingly enough, again, 1-to-1 almost.
Yeah.
You've got the fortress on the sort of the far left hand side there, and comparing the actual real life photograph to the actual render, you can see the same structure. You can see the same
Yeah.
brickwork that's sort of supporting the base. You can see the same sort of red bricked upper tier. You can see the same sort of circular windows, and then the structures on top of those bits as well. Everything's represented as almost a 1-to-1 to the real life counterpart, which is amazing.
It's like they've literally just taken that photo and rendered that in the engine or
Yeah,
CG
it
or whatever
is.
and gone, bam, here you are. So again, the accuracy level here is insane. When you think back to the Hideki Kawabata stuff with the karate tournament and the karate arena, you found an image from that back in the day,
Yeah,
which,
the
again,
Yokohama
1-to-1, wasn't it? So the accuracy here is just insane. So again, this is, like I say, this is exciting. This is where I think the meat and potatoes of some of the Shenmue story is going to happen. This is where I think we could really start to see things to open up and unfold.
You've got the iconic sort of Sega blue skies in that image as well, Matt.
Yes, you do.
You know, which is very
Back in
much
the
of
day.
that time, isn't it? Yeah.
So then we move down a little bit. We've got like the temple bridge. I think it's probably sort of an annex to it, almost leading into it, from what I can tell. It
Yeah.
certainly fits the aesthetics of the cliff temple, albeit on here it looks like it's lower down, perhaps.
It's difficult to sort of compare that with the real life location without actually having a better idea of what the real life location has. You know, if this is part of the cliff temple structure still, like somewhere else, but it looks to me like it's almost on ground level because you've got grass, like a green sort of grass on the far end there, and these actually looks like a moat water.
Yes, yeah,
You
you're quite right.
sort of thought that as well. So there's like water going underneath it, which I'm not sure would be part of this temple structure. Maybe like a lower down part. I'm not sure.
Could be, could well be, but it's interesting because the aesthetics are very, very similar, albeit
Yes.
lower down. Certainly implied that way anyway. And then
Looking at the date on that, it was made 4 days after the fortress.
so it could well have been sort of a follow-up to it then.
Yeah.
And then coming down, you've got Temple Bridge 2, which again made on the same day. Very similar structure and aesthetics there as well.
And I will say all the little descriptions below all of the images, guys, these are painstakingly translated and transcribed and virtually come up with himself by Switch. So a massive shout out to Switch for all of the translation work and providing these awesome little descriptions just to sort of, you know, detail what we're looking at.
Gives us that little bit extra, doesn't it?
For sure.
So we've got that there, and we come down again. There's no date on this, but then got inside a temple. Now, whether this is inside the cliff temple or not, we're not entirely sure.
I mean, it was from the same line of images, wasn't it, right, Matt? It wasn't like it was like, oh, here's the cliff temple, and then 50 pages later, oh, here's an inside a temple. This was literally the page, the image after, in that order.
They were all grouped together, weren't they? So, for the sake of argument, we're going to say we think it's probably the inside of the cliff temple, and until someone tells us otherwise. So, again, this is nuts that we've got access to this. So, can you imagine Rio and Landy facing off in here, or Rio facing down Niao and Landy, or Shenhua doing that whole thing with what her powers might be in that room? That could be where this all happens.
Or something to do with the Project Berkeley face thing opening up, whatever that was, that statue thing, and learning about the Dragon and Phoenix mirror, why they were locked away inside this temple potentially.
Again, there's loads.
Going all the way back to the the King Dynasty or whatever, the story that Yuanda Zoo tells.
Yeah, you got loads there. And then you've got another image from inside the temple. It looks like it's higher up in the temple, but again, you can sort of see down into the main block of the building itself. Again, it's quite eerie, actually, the look of this one.
It is, yeah. It's very much like, I want to say, the first time you enter Manmo Temple and you're inside this big, almost quite dark sort of room, aren't you?
Yeah.
And Rio doesn't really know what he's going to expect to find within this temple. And then obviously that was based on real life as well, so a lot of things within at least the first two Shenmue games have been
Very painstakingly put together, haven't
painstakingly
they?
put together based on the real life locations.
And then you've got another inside shot inside Temple 3, again very sort of eerie, and again the red staircase, the pillars and everything else. So it's all the same place in a nutshell. And then sort of coming down, we've sort of scoot through some of the inside objects. You've got like stone warriors that were potentially either inside the temple, could be outside the temple that have been generated. I mean, it's the sort of thing you would see at a temple. Furthermore, you've got some more stone warriors there, some dragon objects, so would make sense with Landy.
True.
Potentially.
Just very much a China thing, isn't it? Dragons and phoenixes in general.
And then you've got sort of various temple objects. Again, could well fill out this temple room. Again, further temple objects. There's quite a few renders here. But that then brings us sort of to the end of the Cliff Temple section, which is quite exciting. Actually, then probably leads us in quite nicely, because we've talked about this a little bit in terms of what could happen in the Cliff Temple. And what we've got here is Shenhua and a profile, which is a design order sheet. So, James, do you want to, before we dive into Shenhua, talk about what this profile sheet actually is?
Yeah, well, these are interesting. We had quite a stack of these different sheets. So obviously they've been translated, and originally we just assumed they were a profile of said character, which they essentially are, but there's a couple of different versions of these. So we've got this. This is the character design order sheet. So this is what the developers, certain team members, have either thought up of a character, or maybe they've realized, oh, we need this particular character in this location, and then they detail some of the features they want in terms of said character. So you've got your date of birth, gender, height, weight, and then some of the personality traits, what outfit they want to wear. So very much quite a detailed sort of sheet that's then handed over to one of the designers, like one of the 3D designers or 2D designers, and they've taken this information and put pen to paper and come up with a said character, which is crazy, really. And I did mention how there was like two different types that we were aware of anyway. So this is the main character order sheet, and then we had a few little tinier sheets that are known as supplementary order sheets. So say if a character like Xiuying, for example, has a green jacket, we've got one of the profile things for that. So it's essentially another order saying that we are requesting someone to make us a green coat for Xiuying based on these traits and stuff like that. So really interesting actually to see these design documents. Of course, probably this stuff was never really meant to be seen to the general public, but obviously coming into our possessions, it's awesome to be able to preserve this, as this is what was handed between Sega staff members or AM2 staff members within what team that Yu Suzuki had assembled of all these amazing, talented developers and individuals, and just handing these papers left, right, and centre to all the different departments to create characters and whatnot is a really cool thing to actually see with your own eyes, I think.
Yeah, and like you say, this sort of stuff is like behind the curtain stuff.
Yeah.
This is, people don't see this very often, and when you look at this particular one for Shenhua, which we're going to go into the detail in a moment, it's for Virtua Fighter RPG, and this is generated on the 6th of June 1996. So 29 years ago, this was originally put together. So a lot could have changed, but we believe that this carries some potential spoilers going forward, and I think it may confirm one or two things from Shenmue 2 as well. But let's dive into this
what a lot
properly.
of people thought, if you know what I mean.
So let's dive into it in the description of it. So I'll take the description. If you want to take the order details, we'll go through it. So the description is a Virtua Fighter RPG order sheet. The request date was the 6th of June 96, as I said. Original concept was Makoto Goya. Requester was Nokukatsu Hironoya, and the creator was Iogo Kashihara. I think I did that quite well.
Not too bad, Matt.
Chapter 5, Guilin or Aries. Character name, Liu Shengguo. So a slight change there. And the number was number 4 or 04, however you want to look at it.
Yeah. Just straight off the bat, Matt, before we get into the order details. So chapter 5, if you think of the original chapter structure that Yu Suzuki shared with us, chapter 5 was the Guilin image. So, it's pretty much lining up to those images, if you want to think of it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is interesting.
So, order details. Name, Liu Shengguo, which we've just mentioned. So, gender, female, typically has a blank facial expression. Blood type, in case you wanted to know, is B. The date of birth is January the 30th, 1970. So, she's 17 years old, I'm guessing, at the time of the game. Whereas Akira is 19 at this time, which is interesting. It's slightly tweaked the dates there as well, haven't they?
Yes.
I guess maybe potentially. I know he has his birthday. He's 18, doesn't he?
Yeah.
His 18th birthday when his father dies. So potentially they could still have been on that sort of same mindset, but they would have thought that maybe by the time we get to chapter 5, it's been a full year potentially. Because I know Yu Suzuki said he wanted the whole thing to be like 4 years, didn't it?
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
Something like that. He wanted to sort of simulate years passing from the start of the game to the end of the game. So that could add up potentially with the chapter 5-ness under these original plans. But continuing on, we've got height and weight, 155 centimeters tall and 43 kilograms weight. Heavy, rather. Clothing, ethnic attire as created by Miyawaki. So obviously Kenji Miyawaki, the original character design artist that we all know and love. He essentially created the ethnic attire, apparently, which includes a hat, thin scarf-like ethnic style item, slightly frayed pinafore skirt, trousers, and shoes. And I did mention this to you, Matt, because obviously I've got one to hand actually. So Shenhua render.
Yeah.
On the Dreamcast. I'm not sure if that's considered a pinafore, if that's long or not. You can potentially see the trouser-ness there. So maybe this hidden. Is what it's based on. Yeah. Or if you think of Shenmue 3's Shenhua, maybe the mention of like trousers and stuff like that makes a little bit more sense. Depends where a pinafore skirt goes down to. I'm not sure if it goes all the way down to feet or it's more of a waist thing.
I'm not sure.
But potentially could be describing the Shenmue 3 outfit rather than the Shenmue 1 and 2. I'm not sure on that personally. Appearance location throughout Guilin. The frequency of appearance, she's the heroine. So you've got the hero, which is Ryo, and the heroine, which is Shenhua. So it's nice to know that she's considered like the second major character or one of on equal levels. Could be. Relationship with Akira, and this is an interesting one, Matt. So love interest, question mark. Is that a spoiler, do you think? Or have we already kind of seen that in the fact that she's sort of building this relationship with Ryo? She went in for a kiss in Shenmue 2, didn't she, if you remember? And obviously they're sort of bonding over this prophecy that sort of links them together, ties them at birth almost.
And also when you think of the conversations they have in Shenmue 2 all the way through, again, if you take the time in Shenmue 3 to speak to her at night at Bailu Village, they start bonding over where Ryo's come from, his friends, the village, what she's up to there. It's you couldn't rule it out, could you, that she is a love interest for him.
Thinking back to the Project Berkeley poem, right, Matt, if you remember, we read that a couple of times now. Heavy emphasis on one of the themes of the series being love.
Yes, true.
So we'll have to see where that goes, if that's related to Shenhua. Required facial expressions. We've got joy, anger, sorrow, happiness, as well as pain and terror, Matt, which is an interesting one as well.
Quite a broad range, isn't it?
It is a broad range. That's like every emotion, but emphasis on pain and terror, which we're going to see in a moment. And just incidentally, I'm sure everyone's aware, but every time we say Akira, we mean Rio. It's just
It's just
Akira
what it
was the
says.
original. Yeah, okay. Required movements. It says refer to the scenario. Additional animations will be added in scenario updates. If you want to take the personality now, Matt.
Yes, now this is where I think it starts getting a little bit juicy here. So, personality, she has a pure and innocent heart, has a selfless kindness that leads her to act without hesitation for the sake of what's important, lacks a sense of caution towards others. Due to upbringing in a secluded rural village, she is naive and unaware of the outside world. As a result, she sometimes causes trouble for Akira by misunderstanding situations. This is where we get into potentially Project Berkeley, Shenmue 4, spoiler stuff now. Shenhua inherits the bloodline of a family from the elite Manchu 8 banners, an imperial military force directly serving the emperor, particularly known for their mastery of ki, mystical energy or kinetic energy.
Yes.
She is the descendant of a legendary martial artist, Liu Shengguo, who was known as a lightning hero and has an innate ability to sense and manipulate ki.
How do you explain that then, Matt? So, thinking of the sort of this imperial military force directly serving the emperor. When I read that, and I've already had like conversations with you about this, Matt, but I'm thinking of in Shenmue 3, the envoy approaching Bailu village, not with 8 banners, but
No, it's just
there
two,
is
isn't there?
those 2 banners with the crests of the phoenix and the dragon on. That's sort of like an imperial military force almost coming through into Bailu. That's the sort of feeling you get from that. Directly serving the emperor, because obviously they originally were there in 1910 to commission the phoenix and dragon mirror from the greatest stonemason in the entire world, apparently, who was Mr. Yuan's grandfather, Shenhua's father's grandfather, essentially. Now, Shenhua, on the other hand, here is apparently the legendary, a descendant of the legendary martial artist Liu Shengguo, who is known as Lightning Hero. So obviously, Mr. Yuan is just Shenhua's stepfather, and we do actually see the cutscene under the tree as a baby Shenhua with the parents, or real parents, who we assume are potentially royalty. I'm not sure if the guy depicted in that flashback is this Liu Shengguo, do you think, or is this like a bloodline from like centuries ago, do you reckon?
It sounds like bloodline from centuries ago, doesn't it? That it sort of passed through generations to generations. But also, incidentally, when you think Shenmue 3, she talks about having many birthdays and feeling her ancestors, doesn't she, through her dreams and things. So that
It's like
could be
dwelling inside her, isn't it?
So that could be linked to that potentially. And then you think of her powers. Now, obviously, in Shenmue 3, she messes with Yanglang to get whatever she wants. Now, we don't know what she's done. It's assumed that she's got it in his head somehow, and it's still possible. But what's to say as well she hasn't used ki and like done something in that room to scare him, and then he's gone, I'll tell you anything you want, you know? That could be a possibility. And then we go into the Project Berkeley stuff in that temple which looks very similar to the one we've just looked at in terms of the setup with all the red beams everywhere and everything. And those guys have grabbed her, and she uses ki to push them off, and then sets up that energy ball and destroys the whole place and levels it.
Kamikaze, isn't it? Just explosion of force, and that is Shenhua at a high sort of peak with this kinetic energy. Obviously, we've seen her lift the dandelions during walking through the forest. We've seen her lift the Sword of the Seven Stars up out of the the stone that it was like stuck in there, and it's lifted up. It she's got this sort of kinetic magical force. She's like one with nature. She's I don't know if she literally means that she can talk to animals, but she can communicate with the animals through this energy, which is apparently a true thing. Someone mentioned this to us the other day, Matt. It's a real thing. This kinetic energy, this ki, is a real force of nature, I guess. Might be worth looking into that a little bit to understand how it works and whatnot. I will pick up on the word there, lightning hero, Matt, thinking of the Shenmue Online trailer, where it almost is like a lightning crashing with Shenhua stood on the mountaintop, and then there's like lightning crashing down into the sort of the area that she's looking at, whether that or not could be related to this, in terms of that she can maybe she can strike a lightning strike or something, or just this kinetic energy sort of so powerful that it's doing it itself, because she's changing the weather almost, if you know what I mean. It could be all linked to that.
It could absolutely well be. And I guess the biggest thing for me here is, again, when you think Project Berkeley, you're looking at Shenmue 4, Shenmue 5. This, for me, is Shenmue 4, Shenmue 5. Assuming this is still the plan, of course, we don't know. But assuming this is still the plan, we're getting a very small glimpse into A, her backstory, and B, potentially where she could go with her powers and how she manipulates Ki, the kinetic energy, and then linking that to the Project Berkeley trailer, which obviously you've linked in the website below anyway for everybody. But I will obviously make sure everybody can see that anyway. But again, this is like an insight into where the story may well be going. I've said for years, I think a few people have said for years, Shenmue Online has an element of canon into it. I know it's been denied, but I'm not entirely sure that's strictly true. This doesn't necessarily confirm that either way, but it does raise question marks for me.
It's not a definitive answer, but it is an answer to the age-old question of what's going on with Shenhua.
Yes.
What is going on with her? How she got these powers? So hopefully there is some sort of an answer there that it's key, which we kind of knew already. It was just seeing it in a physical. This is what the power is. You know what I mean?
And this was the plan all along to explore that, and hopefully Shenmue 4 does explore this and really goes into that detail around this, because I think you're opening the story up in terms of massive possibilities and where it could go in terms of the lore, whether it goes down the more magical route, whether it takes some elements of that Ki and keeps it a bit more grounded, we don't know. But again, this is where the excitement lies with these documents, especially these ones, because this is an insight into where potentially we could end up as in a story, and actually why, theoretically, if we get a Shenmue 4, how exciting this could well be in terms of what could be on offer, what could be at that table should we get there.
Yeah, it's not just a fight with Landias, there's
no
loads of stuff still to be rectified or whatever. So just to wrap up the profile thing here, so Other has no interest in makeup, can cook, but her dishes are hit or miss. Which is a fun little personality sort of thing. Yeah. Notes, she was originally meant to start appearing from chapter 5, with a full appearance from chapter 5 onwards planned, which is insane to me, Matt, that Shenhua, obviously we do see her at the end of Shenmue 2, and that's already quite insane that this main character as such is at the end of the sequel, almost. Up until that point you don't really seen her in dreams. But the original plan was for it to not even be introduced until chapter 5, so that's crazy. It says, at her first appearance she is 155 centimeters tall and weighs 43 kilograms, but eventually grows to 165 centimeters tall and weighs 49 kilograms, and the model is expected to change at least twice during the story.
Interesting.
Again, love the detail. Again, maybe sort of suggesting that the plan was for the years to advance, so she's aging from 17 to maybe 20 or whatever by the end of the story. I'm not sure. Her outfit will change as the chapters progress, it says, with each chapter after Menkun. So if you remember, Matt, again, this is something Yu Suzuki's mentioned that he wanted to implement, this sort of seasonal outfit for Shenhua. We see it in the calendar. There's 12 months of different outfits for Shenhua. I think that is really what he wanted in some of the future chapters, for it to be in different outfits. Maybe that was what his original intention was, changing her outfit in Shenmue 3. Maybe it just lacked that continuity from the end of Shenmue 2 to the start of Shenmue 3 of her, maybe, the day after she changes her clothes. But maybe it was always an intention to change her outfit to what she's wearing now, or the green outfit from the DLC, for example.
Yeah, and again, it's insane that they thought, as you said, that her model changes twice and she grows. Now, whether that happens or not, I don't know, but they've clearly thought this through.
I mean, I dare say that this is just a sort of tweak, but in fact, the character model here, a head shape is different between this one and this one. It's a little bit taller, longer. Maybe she's taller overall. I'm not sure. That's probably me just reading into that a little bit too much. But the final little bit of interesting information, if you go back up to the design document there, are all the crests and stamps from all the developers that have signed Shenhua off as a sort of an order here, which is really cool to see. So obviously each one's got their own little stamper that they put at the bottom.
That is a long list of approval.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a very long list of approval. Coming down, then we've got some images, I think, sort of then go into a little bit of what about her description of character is. So you've got an image here, a sketch of Shenhua crying. So something has distressed her. We don't know what, but...
So contextually, that's why the Project Berkeley video is just above that. So you can watch that and see what we've been talking about, how she does the kinetic energy. But there's also a brief moment where tears are streaming down her face. This could be that moment.
That could be that moment there. Then you've got the explosion. So when you see in that Project Berkeley video where she pushes them away, that potentially is a sketch of that. And actually, to point out her dress sense there, it's more Shenmue 1 and 2-esque.
Good point.
But I would argue, if you look at her hairstyle and also look at the elements of the dress, it almost looks like a bit of a mix between the anime and the original.
Yeah.
So whether they've taken some liberties with that, I don't know. But again, it said the description gives everything you need to say. A dynamic sketch of her in a defensive stance with her cap flying off behind her, dress flaring out, and her expression is intense and focused with her hands outstretched in front and her fingers spread wide. So that's really cool. Coming sort of further down, so very different context to this. I would imply it's on the way to the Great Wall or on the Great Wall because there's sketches in the background of this. But you have Shenhua and Ryo or Akira walking and looking like they're having a conversation.
She looks a bit angry with him, actually.
Does look like she's ripping out of him a bit, which is quite cool.
When I first saw this and then noticed that the wall is in the distance, I was thinking that this could potentially be part of the walk that we see at the end of Shenmue 3. So obviously they're walking along the Great Wall, but prior to that, to get to the Great Wall.
It could be an opening part, it could be... I know, it's exciting to think about these things, isn't it? That we're like... I'm convinced this will be in a Shenmue 4, this bit. We know that, and Shenmue 3 confirms that. They're on the Cliff Temple, or on the walls of the Cliff Temple.
And I suppose up until now, there hasn't been any real... sort of, for lack of a better word, like a tiff between Ryo and Shenhua. So at some point something could happen where he potentially upsets her, and we might, like you're saying, we might see this part of the relationship evolving, especially if she is what might be a love interest for Ryo. They go through these ups and downs, don't they, as they start learning more about each other. Maybe Ryo says something that he didn't mean to offend with. And, we could be sort of seeing that part, picturing the cutscene playing out my head, you know what I mean? Just based on the screenshot.
And he does like that. And he does have a habit of upsetting people by accident, like Feng Mei calling her a cat, so...
Exactly. But then if you see where the next image goes, it looks like Shenhua's gone off on her own.
Yes.
So I have actually included the end of Shenmue 3 as a cutscene here, just in between these two images, just to sort of give the additional context to what we're sort of suggesting here with the Great Wall in the distance, and then especially the next shot looks to be Shenhua actually on the Great Wall, and like I say, she's sort of on her own now, maybe thinking deep in thought, I don't know.
Could be after that tiff, or that she's broken off from the group, could be anything, but I guess the biggest thing categorically here is she's on the wall, which, as we've just been saying, has been depicted at the end of Shenmue 3, and I would suggest will be in a Shenmue 4 at some point in time. So this is a glimpse into Shenmue 4 here, again.
In a sketch form.
In a sketch form, which is insane.
It's the mind racing a little bit.
well, it's exciting, isn't it? That
It is, yeah.
that we've got this material in front of us, because obviously the future of the series at the moment is a little uncertain, but this, we can theorize from this. These are the sorts of things that Shenmue fans thrive off of, that we will sit and analyze and discuss and analyze again, and that's where the excitement for this comes from.
Sure, man. I think we're a crazy bunch of people because we get so little really to chew on, don't we? So these are breadcrumbs left behind that we've managed to sort of see with our own eyes, and I think that to Shenmue fans is exciting, even though it's sort of a sketch done 29 years ago that may not even be the case anymore. But just looking at it here, you can visualize in your head and think about this part of the journey that's still yet to come, and it's great. It's hopefully it's getting everyone's juices flowing, and you can sort of use this momentum to get behind the push for Let's Get Shenmue 4, because I think things like this, these little seeds and nuggets, whilst not giving away the end of the game or the end of the story for sure, it's showing you what's to come, and I think that's makes it all the more exciting. It's not a crazy spoiler as such. It's to get you excited about what could be to come.
It's like a dangling of that carrot just in front of you to go, this is what you could potentially have.
Yeah.
But we won't have it if we don't make enough bloody noise and get behind the hashtags and everything. But I'll talk about more of that later at the end. Then sort of moving through, James, we've put in a couple of images, just sort of, I guess, an unresolved story point between Xiuying and Ziming. So we've got a child illustration of Xiuying here, which I love that image. It's brilliant, that little that coloured image, coloured sketch. It's really cool. And I think that's pretty much what she looks like in Shenmue 2, although I don't think her hair's quite the same. She's got more sort of pigtails either side, hasn't she, if I remember correctly?
I think so, yeah. When she's crying and she's sort of on that rock.
Yeah.
Ziming's walking off into the distance.
Yeah. And then below that, you've got Xiuying and Ziming as children, with like a rural setting, a stone wall and a house in the background. Someone was saying, I don't know if this is true or not, but a theory was that they might have been from that Mao village place that was cut from Shenmue 2. I have no view either way on that one, but it's possible given that. But I know in Shenmue 2, they're brought up in the orphanage, aren't they? In Thousand White. So whether that's changed from here or that was taken there, just as a one-off picture, I don't know. But it's a cool theory all the same. And then you got Xiuying and Ziming as children illustration 2, which is a drawing of then the photo that's in the final game. So James, you've linked down here the Game Jam beta prototype where it's got the sketch in there, and then later on in the final game, obviously you can see the actual main image itself, which has then been rendered for the game itself.
Exactly, yeah. And in fact, looking at the main image again, does appear to be buildings behind Ziming.
Yeah, there's something in the background there, isn't there?
Whereas in the previous shots, it's more, like you say, it's more rural. So maybe they changed that, and it is meant to be like Kowloon's orphanage. I don't know. Although, having said that, that flashback scene, she is in pretty much a huge rural area, isn't she? It's almost like a desert.
It is, isn't it?
Not quite sure, but
there's another scene where they're sat over a fire when they exchange, when he gives her the yin and yang pendant and he splits it, isn't it? So you're not quite sure where that is either, because
it's true. That's almost like a rural village setting, isn't it?
So that's cool.
Interesting.
So that, again, that's, like I say, it's an unresolved story that we may get to in a Shenmue 4. We'll see. But then we come on to Niao-san. Now, this is a combination of 2D and 3D renders and artwork, with a real glimpse into the character we saw in Shenmue 3. The fact that her address in Shenmue 3 was part of the original designs. So while people, I think, made assumptions around the video from the premiere and subsequent renders, her dress in Shenmue 3 was always planned. So actually, technically speaking, they haven't changed it. And also, it talks a little bit about her alter ego, Feng, that we see in Shenmue 3. Don't see enough of her. but again was a planned thing going forward way back in 97 when this order sheet was put together. And also her name in documents is Suzaku, which is a Japanese pronunciation meaning vermilion bird, which again all lines up with all the lore that's been out there for a number of years now. Again, this is really exciting because it offers a glimpse into Shenmue 3 and the plans there potentially at that point in time. And this whole, I'm going to bring Adam Dory's post into this from back in the day in 2006, where it was implied that Shenmue was ready to go. They definitely had the plans for it for Shenmue 3, looking at this sort of stuff. So that's an interesting piece of the jigsaw, which I think we're going to pick up in another show, and I want to sort of drop that in here.
It's like a redemption arc for Adam.
Yeah, a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, this is somewhat some proof that there was Shenmue 3 things actively being worked around.
And when you combine that with the renders of Yanglang and Aldeyer, I think that probably lands a lot closer having this in front of it. But this, as I say, it offers a real interesting insight into Niao's son, or Li Feng. So I'll quickly do the description and I'll get you to do the order details, James. So it's a VF RPG character order sheet again, generated September the 18th, 1997. Original concept, Makoto Goya, requesters Nokukatsu Hironoya, and creator was Aigo Kashihara. Character name, Li Feng, bracket, Suzaku. Chapter, Guiling. Character number 5 and 12B. Location, description, all areas of the Talin Temple. That's interesting.
It is interesting, yeah. So chapter 5, obviously, you do see Niao-san's artwork in the background, don't you, if you recall, Matt? So it's like a very much a Guilin image of Ryo and Shenhua, but Niao-san's in the background. And also, technically, Niao Wu is still in Guilin.
Yeah.
So take that as you will. Obviously, she pops up in that chapter, or in that part of the game in Shenmue 3. So the order details are name, Suzaku, or Li Feng, which we know her as in Shenmue 3 when she's sort of pretending not to be Niao-san to Ryo. So gender is female. She becomes a woman with a serious personality in contrast to when she is Suzaku, which lines up again, doesn't it, to how she's depicted in Shenmue 3. She has got more of a serious personality. Blood type B. Date of birth is 1961, February the 18th. She's 24 years old, and at this time Akira is 17, which is interesting because they've changed the numbers there again, haven't they? Because Akira was 19 when Shenhua was 17, so I'm not quite sure what's going on in the timeline of events there.
No, I'm not sure. It doesn't quite line up, does it?
No. Height and weight. So height is 168 centimeters with weight being 49 kilograms. Clothing, we've got an ethnic outfit. See the illustration for reference. Appearance location apparently is throughout chapter 7. It says at the end of the chapter she reverts to Suzaku, revealing a true form. So thinking back to chapter 6 artwork is what looks to be Niao.
Yeah, correct.
And at the end of Shenmue 3, she's already reverted to Suzaku, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've maybe done that reveal a chapter early, would you say? Considering 7 is the Cliff Temple.
It sounds like it reading that, but again, we know that the story's a little bit fluid in terms of the chapters and things moving around or being cut. So, but again, it shows here that Li Feng was always the plan.
Yeah, true.
Which is cool.
Yeah, it says she also appears in the following chapters but stays as Suzaku, so just that initial deception is Li Feng. So connection to Akira, enemy. She is one of the 4 heavenly leaders of the 5 heavenly stars, which I found interesting actually, because I know we've heard of the 4 heavenly leaders or the 4 heavenly beasts, etc. in the game, but not so much the 5 heavenly stars, which is quite interesting because we know Tentai, or we've heard of Tentai being the sort of 5th leader above the 4 leaders, right? Or is it the five
Correct.
heavenly beasts? I'm not sure. Is it 4 heavenly beasts or 5
4
heavenly beasts?
heavenly beasts, wasn't it?
Right. So 5 stars core in Shenmue 2, Yuanda Zoo's company. Again, that sort of matches up to this 5 heavenly stars sort of link. So
Ooh,
he could be,
wow.
again, we've theorized that Yuanda Zoo's a bit of a dark horse, shall we say?
Bit of a naughty boy, I think.
So
Is the
whether he's
term I
got
would
any
use.
involvement in there, and that's why he's named his company 5 stars core.
And then the question I've got here is obviously in the interview you did with Switch at Wisenet last year, it was mentioned there was a chief of staff.
True.
Where does that sit in here, do we think?
God knows. Yeah. That was sort of a guy just below, I would assume, maybe Tentai.
Yeah.
Again, though, even though I feel like Yu Suzuki denied that it was Ziming, it still feels very much like it could be a Ziming type role, that guy. He's not one of the 4 leaders that I'm aware of. Because you've got Landi, Niao Son, and you've got the Snake Tortoise guy, and you've got the White Tiger guy, haven't you?
Yeah.
Baihu and, well, I say Baihu, but that's just what it's called, White Tiger. So Ziming doesn't really fit within that 4. Gentai. So he could be
No,
the strategic kind of guy, I guess, of
he
the
could be.
division.
And we know he's working for the Xiuying because he's seen in the comic with Niao Sun, isn't he? So there is that element to it.
So just a thought. Required facial expressions refer to scenario. Required movements refer to scenario. Additional motions may be added later.
Which I think is quite a common theme with these sheets, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I'll take the last little bits and then we'll dive into a bit of discussion here. So personality omitted, same personality as Suzaku. I want that character sheet. That will be interesting to read that.
The Niao-sun sheet, yeah.
Yeah, her order sheet, that'd be cool. It says, disguises herself as a woman named Li Feng to approach Akira and uncover the mystery of the Phoenix Mirror. Well, she does that.
She does that and steals the Phoenix Mirror, doesn't she? So
she pretends that she is also being targeted by the 5 heavenly stars herself, which would suggest to me the 5 heavenly stars back then may well have been the Chiyu men.
Yeah.
But as you say, James, 5 Stars Corp and Yuanda Zoo and sort of what Yu Suzuki's implied in the Shenmue Master interviews, they could be linked looking at this, and that's something that could well get resolved in Shenmue 4.
We lacked a little bit of that storyline in Shenmue 3 of the Li Feng sort of character. She was going to be deceptive, more so by the sounds of it, and the original plans. She was going to sort of suggest that she's been targeted by the 5 heavenly stars or the Qiyu men or whatever herself. Didn't really get into that much detail, but obviously you can sort of see the original plans here.
Which is insane, isn't it? That she wanted to. It looks like she wanted to get Ryo or Akira's trust.
Only more so by like a seductive look into it. Like Ryo keeps looking at her as almost like he fancies her, kind of, and sort of falls into, and not necessarily like a trust thing, but just sort of, I don't know, not falls in love with her either, but you know, she's just sort of.
He's a bit sort of starstruck almost, isn't he? I guess is the word I'd use with her. And then she uses Shenhua to sort of as a pawn to get Ryo to the castle and everything else that happens since. But again, it's the plan here. The whole thing is the plan at the time. And obviously it happened in Shenmue 3, just probably wasn't executed in the way that we'd have maybe liked. But again, this confirms the plan, and it also confirms in Shenmue 4 that she's going to be Niao-san from this point going forward. And it says here in her notes, the opposite of when she is Suzaku, including a different tone of voice. But that's correct in Shenmue 3. She's her tone and the way she approaches everybody, she's very, very different. She's nice to children, she helps them out. She's sort of willing to help Ryo in some respects. And then, obviously, the flip at the end. So again, this was planned all the way through.
So moving down, Matt, obviously I've shown off some of the illustrations of what the original Li Feng was meant to look like. So the first one, sort of like a basic sort of image that they did. And then the second one adds a little bit more to it. So you can sort of see the ponytail, some I don't know what's going on with the bottom right. Does it say actually somewhere? Oh, that text is just a name.
Feng. So there's a bit more detail on it there. The dress or the clothes she's got there is very different to what she's wearing in the final Shenmue 3 model. I'm not sure why they changed that, but again, that's just something to point out.
Yeah, looking between the two, they've added a little bit more detail on the shoe as well.
Yes, they have actually. They've put some like jewels or something on the shoe and just, I think, sort of made it more vivid, haven't they?
Yeah.
And then coming down, you've got a sort of headshot of Niao Sun Li Feng, which again is very self-explanatory. Then coming a bit further down, you've got Niao Sun with her hat off. It's like an early illustration there. Then you've got one with her hat on, which is sort of the traditional. When you think of Niao Sun and the renders, this sketch is pretty much, I think, where we're going. When you look at the pattern on the dress around her neck, that's pretty much.
So sort of prior to seeing her in Shenmue 3, this is how we visioned someone based off the original renders, the original premiere footage or whatever. But again, Matt, the outfits haven't particularly changed. This could just be a future outfit for Niao Sun. This could be the Shenmue 4 outfit.
It could well be the Shenmue 4 outfit. And then coming down here, you've called it Niao Sun Alternative Outfit Illustration, but this is the outfit she wears in Shenmue 3.
In fact, I probably could rename that to Niao Sun Shenmue 3 outfit. But it is an alternative in the sense of 1996. Yeah.
But this is what was designed in 96 for Niao Sun. So, or whenever this was drawn, anything between 96 and 98. It's
spot on, really, isn't it?
And it's spot on in Shenmue 3. It is absolutely spot on. And then you come down again, you've got the design notes for the back of the dress as well, with the phoenix on it. It's her. That is the dress. That is how she's presented in Shenmue 3, barring a change of hair colour and a little bit of change of hairstyle from the image we've got here.
So it's her. A gold threaded phoenix pattern. That's what that is.
And then image below that, you've got the sort of close-up of the phoenix as well, which is a cool image. And then we've got some sketches. Again, I think very early sketches of Niao Sun here.
These are amazing as well, aren't they? Yeah,
pencil sketches.
Love it. The second one in particular might be interesting because she appears to be screaming or shouting. She's actually saying goodbye. Sayonara. So,
is that when she's burnt down the castle and she's legging it?
No, she looks more like in distress, doesn't she, rather than saying bye to Landy there. So it looks like something bad is particularly happening to her. I'm not sure.
Again, I love these pencil sketches though. They're really cool. Like if you want a glimpse into sort of the process from pencil to colour to render, this is a way to go. And then coming sort of down, we've got Li Feng, a 3D model render here. So that colour image that's been put together is pretty much there. Her shoes are slightly different in colour, but you can see the yellow dots on them, or jewels, whatever you want to call them, on there. And it looks fairly close to the sketch. And then very excitingly here, you've got Niao Sun's 3D model render with Suzaku, obviously is the code name at this point in time, in her Shenmue 3 dress. The only thing I can't remember is, are her shoes different in Shenmue 3?
I think her shoes are sort of like high heels.
Yeah.
Almost like see-through strappy things, aren't they? Like you'd wear to like a night. Well, I wouldn't, but at nightclub attire. Strappy sort of high heel type shoes, I think. But I just sort of included those 3D renders just again sort of show you that they were working on this on the Dreamcast or the Sega Saturn era, whatever this is we're looking at here, VF RPG. Just sort of give that additional context to the sketches that we've just looked at.
So yeah, there we are. That's Niao Sun. Hopefully, well, we are going to see more of her in Shenmue 4.
Definitely. We need to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
The Xiuying sort of disorder that's going on between her and Landy. Landy's got the dragon mirror. She's got the phoenix mirror. So
and they're going to the cliff temple.
Hilarity ensues.
All hell breaks loose and Shenhua just murks the place.
Basically, that seems like you've just spoiled the ending there, Matt. What's going to happen?
That's it. Game over.
Artworks and stuff, yeah.
So then, coming away from, okay, I say mainline characters because we don't know the next ones at this point, but these are depicted in chapter card, I want to say 4 from memory.
True, yeah, the Shanghai
where,
one, yeah.
Where you've then got 3 sort of shadows of young girls around Yuanda Zoo in his chair. And this is the order sheet for those triplets, isn't it, James? Generated on the 7th of July 1996. Again, it's the same people requesting the sheets here. This is for Chapter 2, Hong Kong City area. Zhu Yanda's house and Kowloon. Character name, triplets. 3 people as 1 set. And order number 7, which is interesting.
That is interesting because it seems like they originally were meant to have a bigger role, perhaps. Obviously, we've just mentioned this is sort of following on from what we were talking about Yuanda Zoo's sort of seedy undertones, what's going on with these 3 girls. So here is the order details. So the name, triplets, gender, female, and they're all expressionless, which is interesting. So blood type B, same for all, because obviously the triplets. Date of birth is April the 24th, 1973, which makes them 10 years old at the time of this sort of order going through here. Height, weight, 145 centimeters, 30 kilograms. Clothing, red Chinese dress. Appearance, locations, Zhu Yuanda's house in Hong Kong, his room, and in Kowloon. Apparently help, Akira and Fei. Now, we did think about this. Obviously, we don't know 100%, but you'd assume that Fei, in this context, again being a Virtua Fighter character, but probably as Ren, I'd have thought.
Yeah.
So Akira and Ren, or Rio and Ren, apparently they help him. Appearance frequency. They are minor characters. They reappear at Zhu and Da's hideout later. So this sounds to be like stuff that maybe should have happened. So it's potentially already been cut. But again, we're just sort of suggesting that it could be a future character. It looks like they put a lot of time and effort into them. Relationship with Akira, friends. And at this point, Akira does not realize they are friends. Expressions required, again, expressionless. Motions required, again, similar sort of thing. Refer to the scenarios they keep saying.
Come on to the personalities here. So they do not express anger or frustration. Do not speak much. And when they do, it's in a business-like manner and without emotion. No known close connections with others, but absolute obedience to Yuanda's orders.
Interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting.
Isn't it?
They're apparently considered to be Zhu Yuanda's nieces. However, it's uncertain as to whether they really have blood ties. They have no parents and live with Zhu Yuanda. They receive education from Zhu Yuanda. They do not attend a school or educational institution. They possess extraordinary physical coordination on par with a Chinese acrobat troupe. And each of the 3 uses a different concealed weapon, which is interesting as well. Their coordinated 3-person attack is difficult for ordinary martial artists to defend against.
And then like some little notes here. Okay, the model is shared among 3 members, so 1 model is needed, which is very handy. And appears in Chapter 2 and later in the Shanghai scene, the chapter where Zhu Yuanda appears. Wow. And you've got the note here with the chapter card. They were first revealed to us during the 2014 GDC. The Shenmue post-mortem there, where he shared the 11 images of the original chapter structure when it was known as Virtua Fighter RPG. Chapter 4 was known as Shanghai. It shows the triplets stood surrounding Yuanda Zoo's wheelchair as shown. And you can see that sort of Chinese dress look, can't you?
Yeah.
There, which I think is really cool.
What I found interesting then, Matt, was it saying that they were meant to appear in Chapter 2. So Chapter 2's already happened. That was the Hong Kong stuff with Yuanda Zoo. But they're meant to reappear later when Yuanda Zoo reappears. So even if they have been cut, this profile is suggesting that Yuanda Zoo is going to reappear later. And we know Chapter 3, or where we're meant to be heading to next, is Suzhou. Chapter 4 is Shanghai. So could that potentially be bundled in a potential Shenmue 4? And if so, could that be us potentially getting the first understanding that Yuanda Zoo might show up in that chapter, if that happens?
Wow, it's heavily implied with Yuanda Zoo that there's more to this than meets the eye. And going back to your interview, the Shenmue 3 story DLC, that Zhang was there on Yuanda Zhu's orders. Well, why was he there?
Yeah.
So that
Keep an eye on Rio.
there's a lot of unanswered questions here that would suggest that he could well reappear in a future chapter, and it could be the Shanghai chapter being repurposed and moved for all we know. So again, it's quite exciting that again we've got this insight into potentially where this is going, and then actually I think it's probably a good sort of point to go into the sort of the sketches and the images here, because then it then starts looking at potentially further chapters on. When you think you've got the sketches here of the triplets, pencil sketches, and again really cool, and if you look at the chapter card, they're pretty much there, aren't they, in terms of the way they look. You've got a head reference sheet, just sort of a really detailed design of the head, which I think's pretty damn good actually.
It is, and it looks like, judging from the text, they've upped their age from 10 to 12 at this point.
Yes,
on the characters,
which
so
makes
they're all 12 years old. Yep.
Then you've got the expression sheet there, so they do have a bit more expression to what was obviously put in the
Originally
original order
touted,
sheet.
yeah, expressionless, yeah. This is smiling.
I love this one. The character design in full colour with full coffee stain as well.
Yeah, I left that in, Matt, because obviously there's a lot of like little blemishes and dots and photocopy black dots and stuff that I've tried my best to take out, but any coffee stains I've left in, give that authentic look surrounding the artwork there is funny.
And the text says that she's about 130 with a pale complexion. Then you've got a side profile sketch again, rear profile, triplets in town. So this is a really cool sort of color image here that you can see one triplet at the front, and I'm guessing one to the sort of the right middle and then left back potentially.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Almost acting as like spies or informants potentially.
Yeah, and interesting. I know obviously I guess they've been cut unless they are going to reappear in the Shanghai chapter, but interesting sort of concept having 3 of the same model, because obviously they are triplets, but that could have posed some interesting sort of conversation and cutscenes, like if Rio bumps into one of them and then somewhere else he bumps into another, and then somewhere else and he keeps thinking it's the same person, but it's actually not. It might have been quite cool to keep seeing these 3 and then
might mess with him a bit.
Mess with him a little bit, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. It's fun.
So then again, sort of coming through, you've got the 3D character model render, which she's got a very serious expression on her face here. But again, this leans into the fact that they had a lot prepared here. A shed load of stuff prepared here. Which is mad, actually.
In fact, the second one, Matt, it says the triplets at age 14, so they've actually advanced their age either again or they've aged because of the story.
Yeah, possibly. So
later chapter.
They've aged 4 years in the time we've taken to get through these. But I guess things change, don't the discussions happen with the story? How is appropriate is it for 10-year-olds to be wielding all sorts of martial arts weapons? I mean, 14-year-olds as well. Probably a valid question.
Yeah, but you can actually see between the renders, Matt, they do actually look older, don't they?
They do absolutely look older than the original sort of design there. Then the head render again, you can see they've definitely aged in that head render, aren't they? So they're much.
It does say 10.
It says 10 here, doesn't it? So that's random, isn't it?
It's random because it looks to be similar to the previous render where they said they were 14.
Yeah.
But that one does say 10. And
maybe they haven't decided.
It has been translated correctly because it says 10 in the image. So yeah, maybe not, Matt. Don't know.
This next image is one that I find really interesting. So they got one of the triplets, the Kangzhou Iron Lion 3D render. Now, this is implied in, I think, in chapter 9 of the chapter cards from memory. Is it 9 or is it 8? It might be 8, actually.
8, I think it might be 8.
It is 8. So you can see the Iron Lion there, and you've got the 4 people still on the mountain. You've got Rio or Akira there as well, sort of faded in. So that there, for me, could well be a glimpse into Shenmue 4, Shenmue 5, looking at that particular image. This is also in Virtua Fighter 2. It's Akira's home stage on Virtua Fighter 2, and that Iron Lion is there as well. So,
yeah,
we talk about reappearances and whether these have been moved, or whether they were going to make these appearances further on. obviously it's guesswork here, we don't know, but this image implies that they are going to come back or be introduced at least, along with the other stuff.
What's interesting in particular about Kangzhou, Matt, is that is the location that Landy references at the start of the first Shenmue. So he says Menkun, like your father killed my father in Menkun, whatever, back in the day.
Yeah.
Menku Kun is actually located in Kangzhou. So this image is obviously a location that we are heading towards at some point. Like Kangzhou is chapter 8. Rio at some point probably will go back to Menkun and learn about what actually happened from his father there. It's just awesome seeing these original intentions on these 3D renders of these places that they already had ready to go back in '98 or whatever.
And then again, it's all these strings that are going off in all these directions for what a Shenmue 4-5 story could look like. So again, this is a glimpse into what potentially could happen in a future game, and I love seeing that. It's brilliant. And then here you've got a tree courtyard 3D render with all 3 of the triplets there as well. Again, it's just 3 of them created by Takahashi Ito there as well. So that's again, so it comes to the end of the triplets, but it's a really interesting insight there to something that provisionally has been cut. When you think we've already met Yuanda Zhu, obviously had the cutscene with him in Shenmue 2, but we know Zhang reappeared in Shenmue 3. So there is scope for Yuanda Zhu to reappear, and if he does reappear, there is scope within Shenmue 4 for the triplets to make an appearance.
Maybe storyline wise, Yu Suzuki thought, well, you're not going to introduce them here. I'll introduce them when we get to Shanghai or something. It's like, this is Yuanda Zhu's proper base. This Shanghai. That's where his triplet girl nieces or whatever are there to protect him and serve him or whatever they're doing. But again, I don't know if that's going to cut it in 2025. This day and age is like 10, 12-year-old, 14-year-old girls with knives and blades and doing exactly what Yuanda Zhu says. I don't know.
We shall see. But again, it's exciting.
Controversy.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting to talk about it, whatever happens, I think. Again, as I say, it's a glimpse in. And speaking of, I don't know if this is a glimpse into the future or not, but we've got a character here, Liu Shengguo, if I've pronounced that correctly. It's character order sheet number 22, generated on, I'm guessing it's the 13th of October 1997.
Correct.
Again, generated mostly with slightly different people here, actually. So Mika Tamura did the original concept. Requester was Hiroyuki Nakagomi, and the creator was Kenji Miyawaki, so a slight change here. Chapter Hacker, which you probably look at and go, what's that? Hacker-sun is Bailu. That's well known. And then a character name, as we said, Liu Shengguo or Ryo Shukuku.
Not far off, Matt.
Not far off.
Ryo
And his number
Shokoku.
Very. Like, and he's number 422.
I'm not sure what the dash means.
No, I don't know.
22. Unless that's the chapter number? Chapter 4? I don't know. I know the chapter was Hacker, but let's read the order details anyway. So his name, Liu Shengguo, Ryu Shokuku, Koko, whatever, is the Japanese version. So Switch has kind of just put that in because obviously in Shenmue 2, for example, most of the characters have Chinese names, but there is Japanese counterparts. So if you play those games in Japanese, they're probably pronounced with the Japanese names, kind of like Bailu Village and Hakkasan, for example. Gender male, blood type A, date of birth February the 12th, 1924, which makes him 62 years old. His height and weight is 165 centimeters, 62 kilograms. His clothing is Chinese-style clothing and cap with glasses. Refer to the illustration. Appearance location, Hacker or Bailu. Appearance frequency only in Hacker, may reappear during training scenes. Relationship with Ryo. Interesting. I don't know if that's translated as actually at Ryo at this stage or. we've put Rio by mistake, and it should be Akira. Potential name change there. So relationship is Baji-Quan Master. That's interesting because obviously in Bailu is where supposedly it's the place for Baji-Quan people to go and train in Baji-Quan. And we didn't really get an awful lot of it. Obviously there's Grandmaster Feng and Master Sun who teaches Rio a Baji-Quan move as such. So whether that guy is the repurposed version of this, or there was meant to be another guy in Bailu that was a Baji-Quan master, or this guy's been moved somewhere else potentially. Do you want to go into the personality and whatnot, Matt?
Yep, so he's warm-hearted, family-orientated, benevolent, can be strict when necessary to teach valuable lessons, and one of the Baji-Quan masters, and does not use force unnecessarily. Now, I'm going to bring his character illustration into context here, and the reason I say this is originally I thought he might look like a train conductor.
Yeah.
When you think of the chapter
we joked about the Thomas the Tank Fat Controller, didn't we, that guy?
We did.
But I know what you're saying. I felt the same way. He looks to be like someone that you'd see on a train. And in fact, is it the Chapter 3 image?
Yes.
Isn't there a bloke that looks a bit like a conductor?
Yeah,
and similar looking to this guy. I'd have to get it up on screen.
Thought it was him, but we're not. I think the character order sheet obviously confirms differently. But it's interesting whether they've cut him completely, whether he's been repurposed, because Rio will meet other masters. We're pretty sure of that in future games. It's implied in the chapter cards. So could he be one of those people that he does come across?
Right. So just looking at the Chapter 3 artwork again, there is a guy. He looks very much more military though, with a cap, green sort of outfit. I mean, pocket wise, it's the same. If you bring up the Chapter 3 artwork there, Matt, almost like an M. Bison hat on the Chapter 3 artwork guy, rather than this sort of flat cap. This guy kind of looks to me like someone you'd see maybe practicing Tai Chi under a tree, almost like a Xiuying type of guy, actually. Flat cap on. But yeah, interesting. Whether this is a guy that's going to show up in the future, maybe he's been repurposed or cut completely. The 3D model especially sort of gives you a good glimpse of the original intentions of who this guy would have been.
Again, he was a fair way along if they're thinking about this. Now, if this was originally applied for Shenmue 3, again, it lends further credence to something has been developed for Shenmue 3, where obviously many years ago by the looks of it, but they certainly had material back there, again, on top of everything else that we've come across recently. But again, sort of a nice glimpse into a character that was probably cut and not going to reappear, in my opinion. But again, you just never know with how they've repurposed the story and everything going forward. Then coming down, we've got 3 colour artwork sketches. Now, these are legitimate pen sketches that were done, because you can see on the other side of the paper the imprint of the pen. The green one looks a bit like Xiuying for me.
I would say that's Xiuying, yeah.
The other 2, I think, are up for debate, I would suggest.
Blue could be the girl in Bailu.
Could be.
Wei Zhen.
Could be Wei Zhen, yeah.
Sure. Top right, Dalin. But they could all just be Grandmasters. 2 of them we may not have seen yet.
He's got a bit of a Jeffrey look about him, actually, from Virtua Fighter. I think I said that at the time.
Yeah.
But again, could be Dalin as well. But again, we don't know who those 2 are, but it's fun to speculate all the same.
Yeah.
Then coming down, and we've got 4 major females here. Now, this is cool, I think, because you've got Xiuying, who we know obviously major role in Shenmue. Shenhua, nothing more to be said. Niao Sun, again with her Shenmue 3 dress on there, and then
enemy role.
Yeah, and then our friend Mao is back.
So yeah, so we've actually got who's got that artwork? I think I might have that artwork actually.
You've got that artwork, yeah. So
I don't know why I'm getting my folder, because there's no chance I'm going to find it on the screen. And you're looking at it anyway, so there's no point. I don't know why I'm even bothering. I think I put it after Niao Sun, actually. Sections. But yeah, so just for proof there, guys, that's the original sheet of paper artwork that was included in here. Again, without this folder map, we would never have found the Hideki Kawabata artworks that we're going to go into again in a moment. So if this is the first time you've seen these artworks, really, really interesting history and backstory on this character that we know absolutely nothing about. But obviously, again, she's depicted here as one of the 4 major female leading characters here. So she's got obviously a real big role to play, whether or not that's in Shenmue 4, Shenmue 5, or
Wow.
again, she's another character that's unfortunately been cut. But, and we've spoken about this a little bit, Matt, obviously, with the Mongolian ties between her and Ren, and Ren's backstory history, and what Yu Suzuki said in that interview, where he didn't really want to go into the Mongolian history through fear of spoilers,
yeah.
I guess, could lead a bit of credence that she's still in the plans.
Well, the thing when you look at this and sort of winding it back before we go into the Mongolian stuff and the relationship to Ren and the previous artworks, you look at this image. We've met 3 of those ladies already, albeit Niao was brief, but we have met them. We haven't met her yet. We haven't met Mao yet. Now, assuming we are going to meet her, it heavily implies that it's going to be in the next Shenmue game for me, that she's going to appear. Because why would you go to the trouble of having sort of 4 characters like that and no trajectory for that last one of them? And then when we come sort of down then into the images here at the bottom, which were obviously lifted from the Hideki Kawabata stuff, the first image here, you've got of Ren and Mao, and she's crying with like stars coming out of her eyes. That heavily, heavily implies those 2 are related in some way, shape, or form. There's a connection there. Yep. Big connection there.
Well, for them to create a 3D render of just them 2 as a partnership, whether or not it's again a love interest or a sister interest, like a family member rather, or just an old friend from his Mongolian tribe days that's going to reappear at some point. God knows.
God knows there. But then, like, you've got an image of her on her own, again with the same stars coming out. And this dress is Mongolian. This is all Mongolian. We've confirmed this, haven't we? We've done the research into it. It's all Mongolian, which then links into the Shenmue 1 and 2 description of Ren.
Chapter 9 as well, by the way, in a Mongolia, is it? Chapter 9 or 10?
It would be 9, yes, because 10 is he's got the body on the Great Steps. And 11's the end.
So it must be 9. So, again, unintentionally done this in order, but we've got like the Cliff Temple stuff, which is like 7. 8 is the Kangzhou with the triplets that we're just seeing. And 9 potentially could this be this Mongolia Mao character shows up in chapter 9.
Absolutely possible. And then when you look at, like I said, the description of Ren on the Shenmue 1 and 2 Japanese website, which Yu Suzuki was very coy about when you approached it with him, about Ren's Mongolian roots, that then lends, I think, further credence to A, what's going to happen with Ren in terms of his character and the whole Mongolian thing, and whether we end up finding more out about that. And that then comes on to an image within this set of images where you've got Ren in a Mongolian type outfit, in his red outfit there. So again, heavily implied. This was generated in 23rd of March 2000. So this was heavily implied that you're going that way with Ren's character. So this is in this is Shenmue 4 territory, Shenmue 5 maybe. So well beyond what we knew there at that point in time. And then they've taken the liberty of doing like expression renders for Mao in 1997. So I just don't think, especially when she's classed as one of the 4 major females, that she's not going to make an appearance in a Shenmue 4. I can't see it.
It wasn't really a spoiler, but Yu Suzuki saying that it might be spoilers is a spoiler in a sense, because it sounds like there's a plan with this Mongolian sort of thing going on with Ren, that she just has to show up for me. That artwork almost somewhat confirms this Mongolian tie that Yu Suzuki can't talk about because of what we're looking at here, which is exciting. Whether or not this is a Shenmue 4 thing or a Shenmue 5 thing, or if we've got enough money and we can make more Shenmue thing.
Yeah.
Again, it might be something that just has to be cut because it's kind of going down a completely different angle that we probably weren't thinking of for what needs to be rectified in Shenmue. Current stage, bringing in this Mongolian character and this Mongolian thing to Ren's background is a bit of a U-turn, I guess. Maybe like a side arc, which adds a lot of flesh to side characters like Ren, and the overall arcing storyline of Shenmue, which is like an epic, and having these side stories adds to the love we have for the Shenmue series. But budgetary and game restraints moving forward, could that be an arc that doesn't need to be a thing? I don't know. I would love it to be a thing. I'm not suggesting it shouldn't. I'm just saying, like, that could be a plan that has to be scrapped. I'm not sure.
Possibly. We'll just have to see how it ends up. But because Yu Suzuki was very coy about it,
yeah,
it would suggest that he wants to do something with that storyline. Whether that plays out in the way he hopes, who knows? But again, this was a character when we looked at her originally that we were like, oh my god, who is she?
Yeah.
And then you start joining the dots and seeing that she's linked to Ren per that image. She's got tears coming out of her eyes. Is that because Ren dies? And I've said for years, I think Ren's going to bite the bullet at some point. And it'd be Ryo's fault as well, I think. But that's another issue.
Yeah, that moment is your redemption arc, in it, Matt. Once Ren dies, we can all live a happy, quiet life.
Because I won't be banging on about it ever again. But then it's just so interesting that Mao is considered one of these 4 major players in terms of female characters within the series. So
it's crazy. Like, again, I've mentioned this last time, I think, or somewhere, that we just would have assumed it was Shenhua, like another outfit for Shenhua. So having this artwork to then go with it from the auction stuff that we got here, and it's clearly depicting, like you say, these 4 characters as separate people. Just amazing to, in 2025, which is like start of this year, is when we found out about all this. A brand new character that we had no idea about.
No,
and
no
a major
idea.
one at that.
A really major one by the looks of it, and hopefully that plays out. Before I come on to the last character, which we're going to come on to sort of round us off, I'm going to bring up, like, there's the image there of this sort of scruffy looking bloke, and he's green. He's seen in the Shenmue 3 Kickstarter video as a sketch, which is quite cool. Obviously, he doesn't appear that we think in Shenmue 3, although there's sort of an amalgamation of Mr. Zhu and somebody else. I can't remember his name in Bailu Village. The guy practicing Tai Chi, potentially
him,
there.
I guess. Yeah, like the bloke that
you got him.
Kung Fu Pandas people off the balconies, and at the end of the castle sequence could be him.
And then you've got him sort of drinking on the floor. Then you've got Yanglang's model there from Shenmue, well, from the Dreamcast era. Again, I think and adding further credence to potentially what Adam Dory was saying back in the day, that they had things ready to go. Well, this would suggest it.
Well, because he appears in Bailu, so it seems like whatever they were working on past Shenmue 2, Shenmue 3 stuff, Bailu was already a thing.
And then you've got LDS renders there as well. So it's there. But I'm going to come on to this little boy here, who is called Hu Hao. Now, this comes from Shenmusings. He's an unseen Shenmue character, and there's sort of an analysis that between Stuart, Shenmusings, and Switch have done, that the character's name had been seen before. So in the art booklet given to the attendees of the Shenmue premiere event, there's the map of Suzhou. And as we know, Yu Suzuki has confirmed we are going to Suzhou in Shenmue 4. That is confirmed, black and white, a 99.9% chance that's happening. And on that map is Hu Hao's house. This little boy.
So
this is the Shenmue 4 character.
Exactly. I was just about to say the exact same thing, Matt. We're looking at a Shenmue 4 character there. So that is not like the craziest way to end this Shenmue 4 sort of spoilers artwork thing, But I think it's a nice way to wrap it up, in the sense that this is actually someone that we're going to, or potentially going to meet. Shenmue 4 character, little boy, his house, what his relationship with Ryo is going to be.
Who knows?
Maybe puts him up in his
we
house or
don't know.
something.
I mean, Rio does like getting free places to stay, so I guess it could well be a way they go about it. But again, like you say, it's a good way to sort of bring this section of the artworks to a close, because it's again, we're pretty sure this is a Shenmue 4 character, and all the evidence again points that way. But we don't get a Shenmue 4 if people aren't out there campaigning, joining the tweetathons for the hashtag Let's Get Shenmue 4 on the 4th of every month. Not only that, but making as much noise on social media as possible for Shenmue, telling Sega and any other company out there that will listen that we want more of this game, because there are so many unanswered questions here. And going through this, it's probably just raised more questions than answers, frankly. But
True.
that's the whole point, isn't it? We want these questions answered.
We do, Matt. So just to summarise then, what have we seen? We've seen the Cliff Temple, a destination that we're heading to in potentially Shenmue 4. We've seen this young boy here, potentially a character that we're going to meet in Suzhou. We've met Mao, who's potential character further down the line. The triplets potentially could pop up further down the line. We've learned about Shenhua's sort of powers, what might be going on there, with the chi or ki or whatever that's going on throughout there. Another Baji-Quan master, locations, places and things that have a real sort of that's where we're heading to next kind of vibe, which is really cool, especially when you're going off the chapter tiles and sort of how we related that to that. Niao-san, definitely going to see in the future. Yuanda Zoo potentially could pop up in the Shanghai section if we do get to that sort of stage. So yeah, bits and bobs I think in there, Matt, that I think whet the appetite at least for Shenmue 4 and beyond. Hopefully you agree.
Yeah, absolutely agree with all of that. There's loads, I think, to come. But as we sort of bring things to a close, I was going to say we've got a couple that we are going to release to the public, I guess is the way to talk about it. But James, I'll let you go for it.
Okay, so we had this idea. So there was quite a few additional sort of renders of Shenhua. Slight differences between them, albeit, of course. But we didn't want to just, hold on to all of these artworks for ourselves. So we're going to make a few of these available to people that have stuck around, watched this whole entire video or podcast show, wherever you're sort of digesting this content from. So I would suggest on YouTube, where probably majority of people have followed along with this because of the on-screen content sort of giving the additional context. So if you have stuck around all the way to the end and you're hearing me talking about this right now, if you want to put a comment in the YouTube comments below, let's go with what was the original name? Was it Lo Shenhua? Type
Lo Shenhua, yeah.
Lo Shenhua, that's L-A-O maybe, I think. Was it Lao? It was like L-A. I'm making this more complicated than it needs to be. Just put Shenhua artwork in the comments below, and we'll pick a YouTube comment that has literally said Shenhua artwork as a comment down below as one of the winners, and we'll contact you at some point, Matt. I don't know when, but
exactly
we will
that. We'll do it
you.
A bit random. We'll let you know you've won, and then we'll arrange shipping for one of the original renders that have come from the artwork pack from the auction that we won. And it's really photo paper. It's proper quality stuff. This is.
It's got like original yellowing around the edges and whatnot. And we do have a couple more of these to give away. Matt's got a couple, and we will be sort of giving away on all of the different types of content that we're going to be producing. So like Matt said at the start of the show, we've got a wealth more artwork to get through, characters that you know and love from the original games. There's a lot more discussion points that we're going to be getting into with some of the other artworks that we've got. Like I say, there was over 400 in total.
Yeah,
you've seen all the categories at the start. This video that we're doing today is literally just whetting the appetite for the Shenmue 4 and beyond stuff that we've sort of picked out from the artworks that we thought might be the future of the series. So definitely stick around with us, guys. We've got probably 2 more parts of this where we're going to go into a lot more of the other artwork that, if you're a big Shenmue fan out there, I'm sure you will enjoy.
Brilliant. So there we go. I think that takes us then to the end of the show. And thank you for sticking with us for nearly an hour and 3/4 now. Hopefully that, as James has said, has whetted the appetite for what's to come for Shenmue 4. Now, if you want a Shenmue 4, we need everybody out there on the 4th of every month with the hashtag Let's Get Shenmue 4 tweeting away to make sure that is trending on X and also over on Blue Sky and all the other social media platforms as well, to make sure we are making as much noise as possible as one community at one time to allow us to get these questions answered and the Shenmue series finished. Don't forget, as always, guys, like, share, subscribe, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and all the usual places to find us. If you want all the video content ahead of time, for £2 a month, you can be a member. But don't worry if you don't. Everything comes out on the scheduling system. I apologise that there's a lot of members' videos at the moment. We all know why that is, with a little one due any week now. So there's a lot of members' videos to get through. But join up if you do. And all the money goes to the running costs that James and I incur, and competitions and giveaways and all the other sort. But for that, guys, thank you for sticking with us. Hope you've enjoyed a little dive into what the future of the Shenmue series will look like from a story perspective. It's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me. I was going to say a great goodbye from me. That's a new one for you, Matt.
There you go. It's a new one. And I will see you all soon. Take it easy, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers, guys.
Look at the time.